What's up, guys? It's Odin Esports. I'm back at it with another video. I even got my sick little logo now, so that's hype. Quick, before I get to the video, I just think I'm going to do a name change. You know, I googled myself, and there's already an Odin Esports out there, so if you see my name change, that's probably why. Anyways, today's video is going to be about relating highlight reels, montages, or even frag movies, and kind of relating their importance to esports and recognizing that, you know? So the three things I'm going to talk about is inspiration, then like pro players. I know it sounds kind of weird, but just give me a second to go into it. And then the last thing is probably going to be like a portal idea, you know, because you can really, it's almost like listening to a song that you used to listen to in like high school or when you were a kid or you went on a vacation, you know, you listen to that song, you kind of get all the feelings. And I guess you could even just use music as a huge example, you know, like you can really feel the times when you listen to the music of that time. Anyways, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was inspiration. You know, I think the first thing you're going to think of is, oh, like, it inspires people to play the game more. And yeah, it does on one hand, but I think the much more important aspect that I see is that it shows you what's possible. You know, like when the videos I want to talk about, you know, the first person that comes to mind when I think of these is Mad Life. You know, I remember just playing League of Legends casually, and I get this video linked from my friend's little brother, and it's this Mad Life is God Season 2, Season 3 highlight reel, and I was tripping out. It was kind of like the first time, not that I was introduced into esports, but kind of in a while that it kind of hit me, and it's just, I still watch this video today, and it's been about 3-4 years, and it's one of the coolest things I've seen, man, just the whole way. It shows him, like, with his headphones standing in line. It's like, oh, who will I carry with today? And he picks Blitzcrank. And it's like, who doesn't fucking love Blitzcrank, you know? And this guy was a god. Like, just, I remember looking at the way he's it flashes to him on the PC, you know? And he just has this most dead serious look. And he, like, looks up to the top right. And you know he's, like, checking his health, his summoners, all that jazz, looking at the map. And then it goes back to the screen, and he just, I'm pretty sure, I want to say they reverse, like, Captain Jack in the bot lane. I want to say he's on Caitlyn. It's like Caitlyn Soraka versus Blitzcrank, and I don't even remember. It might Blitzcrank Vayne or something. Anyways, Mad Life goes for this insane flash pull, and it's just the look on his face. You know, he took it so seriously. So I remember first watching that Mad Life reel and just being like, wow, man, support's crazy. Like, I want to play support. Like, I'm going to be flashing over walls. I'm going to be thresh hooking kids all day. Like, and, you know, I never would have felt that way if it wasn't for this highlight reel. It would have been, I'm sure people independently came up with, you know, flash pulling and all this, but in a sense of, it kind of fast tracks you, you know? Like, you can watch a video of nothing getting 5 Deagle headshots in 1.6 and be like, alright, it's possible, you know? Or even the Heat in 4K, you know? Like, every time I was in a clutch in CSGO, I was just like, man, Heat in 4K, come on. The one and only. Anyways, so I guess some of the videos I'll talk about for inspiration, I got them written down. Of course, we'll start with League of Legends just because it's easier. I already talked about Mad Life, you know. I definitely recommend checking that video out. Piglet's Finest is really good too, you know. I think the opening scene is mind-blowing, okay? So it's like a 5v5 fight mid lane, and they're at the enemy's second tower. It's SKT versus whatever. And rip the dream, my PC crashed. Okay. We're back. So he's mid lane and he's falling back from the mid tower and he's going into the enemy jungle, and this Diana tries to jump him, and she throws her Q out, which is if you don't know, it's just this weird, most abilities either go in a straight line or you like target a circle or something. This one, it shoots in a curve, okay? So Piglet's sitting there and he gets at the perfect distance, and then Caitlyn has an ability where she shoots a net and jumps back. And he pops that at the perfect time, and he just dodges his crescent strike, like, so eloquently. And then he just goes around and, like, you know, 2 shots her. And he has, like, a sliver of life. So I remember every time I watch that clip, it just blows my mind. You know, the Faker's Finest is really cool. You get to see some crazy Riven mechanics. And a lot of this stuff is going to be pre-2015, you know. Like, that's when I was in the league, and I think it was a little more intense. So that sums it up for lead. To get in the Counter-Strike, I got nothing but headshots. You know, that one's a total classic. Just feeling, I didn't grow up in 1.6, but my older brother was an amateur pro, and the feeling, like, I can just looking back now, I can watch that banana clip, you know, and all the casters like, oh my god, like you kind of get the feel the hype, you know, even though you weren't there. It's really cool for me. Or even the God, you're gonna hate me. Is it Spawn, the one that had that sick? He tries to go for the ninja defuse. I think it was on Old Cobblestone, and he almost gets it, but he quite doesn't. It's just super cool, you know. Like that's why I love highlight reels. You know, I could go back and watch all these VODs, but I could just watch a highlight reel and get all of it, you know. And take that with a grain of salt. You know, they're definitely used for different purposes. I think if you see a scene you really like from a highlight reel, and then you go into that game and kind of try to study how it happened, I think that's super cool. You know, because you can learn. You almost get like a whole another layer of depth. Like I'm sure if you watch some highlight reels with Thorin, and he could like explain like, oh yeah, I remember that because this game totally took that turn. You know, and I think that's a deeper level of analysis that I'm not really getting to right now. You know, of course, I already mentioned the Heat and verse 4K. That's a very famous Counter-Strike clip. A big one that I watched a lot was the best of Kenny S. And I don't even op, really. One of my best friends that played was a huge opper. But this highlight reel, to me, was just like what I played so much Counter-Strike because of this highlight reel. As dumb as that sounds, but just seeing what this kid could do with the op was incredible, you know? And it's just thrown at you, like, so many times, like, okay, he just got another 3K. Boom, he just got another 3K. Okay, he just 3K nip. Oh, he just 1v4 nip. Like, oh my god. Like, so I think these highlight, like, you can even just tell I can't help but get hyped up. And I mean, I'm sure people have their own highlight reels they love and all that, but to me, I think they're just super cool. I guess to stay on topic of, like, kind of what he showed you could do is just this crazy op play, and especially at close ranges, he didn't seem... that's like you're supposed to be able to, you know, bait the shot out, use grenades, use multiple people to attack him, and it seems like he had a mastery of what people wanted to do to him, and he'd set himself up to where he'd take that quick duel, then fall back. You know, I'm specifically thinking of it was on Inferno, and he like 1v4's nip, or I think he aces him. Like, it's crazy. He's just sitting in the back little box and just jumps up, shoots, gets down, goes, shoots Forrest through a beam, fucking chills out, waits, and then it's starts with an F. Oh my god. Freiburg, are you kidding me? He gets Freiburg last, of course, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, even, especially as a rifler, you know, seeing this op skill, it made me really want to play op, and I had a lot of fun with it, and the video it definitely made my CSGO experience better. So thank you, Kenny S, thanks, Sparkles. The next one, you know, best of Forest. I mean, I'm sure at this point, everyone that's played Counter-Strike is like, oh, like, we already know you can do 4Ks and, like, all that, but just the way Forrest did it, I thought was super cool. I think he had really ballsy positioning, and I like that. It's a good thing. To get into StarCraft, you know, which is where I'll probably be posting this video, shout out StarCraft Reddit. The biggest video I watched getting into StarCraft is this 2009 Brood War highlight. That's like 18 minutes long, and one of the first clips is pretty famous. It's probably the main one I'll mention, but I don't even know the players. It's some Terran versus Protoss, and the Terran does some type of Rax rush, and if you don't play StarCraft, you don't use Marines in Terran versus Protoss. You need to go mech because it's a much better build, and Marines are weak. So this guy's doing like a Marine rush, and this is in 2009. And it starts showing it from this Dragoon, and he's just microing it down to this shield battery and, like, dancing around and, like, pulling the probes. And I think this Dragoon gets up to, like, 12 or 13 Marine kills, and it's absolutely insane. Like, I remember when I first watched that video, and I was like, oh, that's dumb. Like, I don't get this. And then I came back, you know, after playing StarCraft, watching it for weeks. I'm like, man, this is one of the coolest clips, you know? So just showing that, like, okay, this guy, you know, sacrificed economy. He built barracks, you know, all I have to do is just micro this one Dragoon perfectly. And if I can just do that, I got the game, you know? And just seeing, I mean, there's a lot of really cool clips of these videos, but if you're trying to get the point is, as like kind of like a layman or someone who doesn't really come up with the stuff on their own, seeing this in a video, you know, in this form, repeatedly, like all these sick outplays, all these cool moves, you know, it really shows you like anything's possible in the game. You know, you just have to believe, you just have to practice, you have to train, and it can happen, man. It's proof. Speaking of that, you know, the next one that I got really into are the Marine King Prime micro videos, just watching his mouse movement. Alright, I'm back again. Sorry about that. Looks like my computer can't really get past 8-minute videos. So, Marine King Prime, highlight reel, one of the things, it just really gave me a heavy emphasis on micro and StarCraft. And I've always really liked micro, but getting to see how Marine King did it, you know, was very cool. He had great mouse movement. Sorry, it's just I'm trying to like think of everything at once, and it kind of gets out of line because I'm still an amateur at this. So the Hellions, okay, they're like these really fast units that move across the map, okay, and they shoot fire. And he just does this cool thing where he does this pre-box in front of them and pulls it down so they always stay together and not in a perfect line. And it's just little micro tricks like that you get to see from the pros. Really insane, like Marauder, Marine, Medevac, micro, you know, it's just super inspiring. Like, you'd see him take a fight, he shouldn't win with just less units, and he'd just micro them perfectly, you know. And when I'm playing StarCraft, after watching these videos, you know, listening to the music, I'm sitting there, it's like, alright, you know, you have 6 Marauders, you're going to one-shot him, or you have 9 Marauders, you're going to one-shot a Stalker, take the fight, take the fight, take the fight, Marine King, Marine King. And I think this type of stuff, you know, it really, I wouldn't feel that way if I didn't watch the highlight reel, and I didn't see Marine King do it, is what I'm getting to. So, another one that was posted pretty recently, I don't know if you'd count it as a highlight reel, probably more of a montage, but, it was like a 40-minute video of Tasia and all of his like comeback games, and I thought it was really well done because a lot of StarCraft montages are kind of quick and they kind of show you like a quick battle scene. But what this guy did with the video is he kind of go over the whole game. Like you'd see like, oh, okay, so that's how it started, and then a little bit later, and then a little bit later. And the biggest one I can remember is this crazy base trade versus Zest, and he still wins. He like floats. So it's the base trade versus Zest, and he still wins, okay? He floats his barracks out, he floats his command center, and Zest doesn't know what's going on. I should have rewatched it before going to the video to go into more detail, but it's just absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure he gets a few Marines into the base somehow and gets a couple pylons or something. He has like 8 or 9 gateways. I think it was back in Heart of the Swarm too, so definitely a wild game. I'll probably put all these videos in my description because that one's worth checking out for sure. But I remember specifically after watching that highlight reel, and you know, I was in a game and I was getting wrecked and I was like, man, this is over. But I was just like, you know, just play it out. Play it out. I'm pretty sure it was on Frost too, so bigger maps, better favorite for Tasia, who knows. I just remember I like float. Oh no! I remember this now. It was on Frozen Temple, and it was a TVT, and we both floated everything out. And this guy had his command center left, and I've ended up floating mine down to his like 5th or 6th base, whatever you want to call it. It's the one by the natural on the other side of the rocks. I float my CC down there, and I'm building like in the top right and left corners of Frozen Temple. And this guy had a fat mech army, and he just took out my whole base. And I go, and I have a medevac with like 8 Marines in it. And I'm going around just trying to get any damage done to his base, just picking him up. And I remember it gets down, and he just has one building. It's just one command center. And I was like, no way. No way is this it. And I go in, and I land on it, and his whole mech army's coming after. I have like 2 medevacs and like 5 SCVs, and I still beat this kid because of the Tasia highlight. You know, I don't give myself credit. I give it to Tasia. You know, like you gotta let him know. So yeah, I guess that sums it up for like all my highlight reels, and kind of like the inspiration and what I personally gained and like saw was possible through them. So I thought that was cool. You know, they definitely impacted me. And I guess the next thing I could go into, which is kind of tied into what I already said, is the whole pro player aspect of it. Okay, because you can tell a lot of the montages I'm gonna watch are from players I really like, you know, teams I like, and what that gives is you kind of perception into how they play on some level, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But it's like I said, like you see Mad Life, the whole highlight reel, you can just tell that this kid's always looking to flash over wall and do something crazy. You know, he uses his ultimates to full potential. Like how can I catch these people off guard, and what would I be expecting? You know, like. And I guess also just a quick caveat, you see a lot of things in the highlights, or you don't see things in the highlights that are like highlight worthy. Like nobody would probably say like Mad Life has great vision control from the highlight reel, but you'd have to watch the games and understand that, or possibly I have no CSGO examples, but maybe someone who's really good on economy and, you know, buy stuff at a certain time, you wouldn't really see that in highlight reel. So just keep that as a thing to think of, you know. So the pro players, you really, what it makes me think of is skateboarders, okay? I've always related highlight reels to skate videos, you know, like, hey, I'm watching a Rodney Mullen video, like, and it's this 5-minute video, and he does all of his latest tricks, and it's super cool, and he's promoting his brand, you know. The only difference is it feels like the montages and highlight reels need to come from like a tournament or high competition, and you're not really, you're doing it to win, and the highlight and the montages come afterwards, you know. While as in skateboarding, you're doing it to skate, and you get good enough that you're like, hey, I want to make a video. So it's kind of different because skaters will sit there and try to hit a stair set for hours, days, weeks, practice it, get a new trick on it. How can I hit it perfectly? You know, Ryan Reynolds is known for landing a crazy trick, and everyone in the video is like, oh, that's good, dude, that's good. And he's like, no, it's fucking trash. Like, God, I gotta get it perfect. And he just wants to get his front side flip just perfect. He wants to get it far off the forward block. You know, it needs to be a masterpiece in his mind. And he has as much time in the world to shoot it compared to, you know, if you're a pro player in esports and you're trying, I guess, like, say you wanted to make, like, a montage reel, you'd have to play with that in the background of your mind and, like, oh, I have to make these sick micro plays, I have to get all these headshots, you know, and that would definitely bring your game down a little bit. I think it's all about winning. You got to focus on being the best, and the highlight and montages come after. Whereas in skating, you know, I would definitely argue you didn't have to be the best skater to have the best part, if that makes sense. And I think the skate videos really put a huge impact on the culture, okay? So I kind of want to delve into this. So I believe it's probably early 80s, like 81, 82. The Bones Brigade is Stacy Peralta, whatever, yeah. Bones Brigade, Stacy Peralta, and George Powell. So they started the Bones Brigade. It's a group about like 10 really known skaters, 40 in the end, but what they did is they made these series of videos. You know, there's Animal Chin, there's the search for Animal Chin. Wow. Future Primitive, work with me, ban this. We'll do it in order. Ban this, Future Primitive, the search for Animal Chin. I want to say there's another one I'm missing, but these were like the first big skate videos that were people could bring to their homes and, you know, watch. And I remember you see interviews with other top skaters, and they're like, oh, yeah, you know, I remember, maybe this is more later in the 80s and the 90s, when stuff got a little more complicated. But even in the beginning, you know, it was so nice to have a video of a pro skater that you could watch in your home. You could, you know, you'd watch it when you didn't feel like skating, and you're still like skating. And a big thing, too, is you can study it. You know, you can slow it down. How is he flipping his foot? You know, where's, like, how much is he sucking his knees in on the jump ramp? You know, like, how fast is he hitting the jump ramp? You know, and a lot of these things, you don't, like, oh, if I can see Tony Hawk do that, like, I can totally do it. Because, you know, now your brain sees, like, oh, if somebody else did it, it's possible. I just have to do it. So I think it's definitely a cool thing, and skateboarding and esports kind of have the coolest highlight reels and montages. You know, I'm sure there are definitely some cool ones in football and just sports in general, but I think we have the biggest, like, culture on it, if you know what I mean. So, alright, cool. I talked about pro player, pro skater, and I guess if I didn't touch upon it enough, you know, it's just the whole getting to know the pro player through his highlights. You know, if you have a pro, you should, or if you have any team or any players you like, you should really, like, and first off, you should watch their games, watch their stream, but definitely watch the highlight reels, man. You get to see some of the top stuff they do, and it's definitely helped me enjoy my favorite players more, and even the game. And I guess this is another thing I want to go into. So, back in the day, let's say, I guess anytime from 02 to like 2010, like before Twitch and all that got big, I remember a big thing was demos, like watching demos, especially in Counter-Strike. Like, my brother would get these crazy, like, first-person heat and demos, and he'd go in, and I remember, like, watching them with him, and then it was just heat and like spraying down the wall and practicing spray patterns and stuff. And this has kind of become obsolete in my opinion since we have Twitch now and streaming. But I think it's just a cool thing to think about, you know, and that used to be really big. And it's kind of similar to a highlight reel in the sense, like, you really want to get this first person action. You want to see how they see and all that. Another great site I want to bring up is WC, or just WarcraftReplays.com. You know, I remember the whole reason I got in the World of Warcraft was because there's this mage called Vertne, and he did PvP, and he has the sickest PvP videos as a Frost Mage. Like, this guy is just unkillable. I just remember watching those all the time as a kid. I even downloaded them onto my computer, and I just thought they were the coolest ever. Just a shout out to some old school stuff. Alright, yeah. So the last thing is kind of, I feel like they're definitely a portal into kind of enjoying that game in the past. So if I want to, when I watch like the Nothing But Headshots video, it definitely gives me a sense of how they feel about Counter-Strike back in the day. And I guess you could even say more so with like pro players. Like, yeah, sure, Marine King's not really praised right now, or he didn't really do too well in his comeback, but you can just tell watching those videos how dominant this was guy in those games that he was dominant in. Who else? Let's talk about, oh, Cooler from Quake. I watched a sick, when I was actually researching for this, I watched a sick Cooler frag movie, and it's just, it's crazy. You really can see the style of this guy. You know, he's always getting these sick rocket shots with these bodies in the air. Like, the enemy will be jumping, and he'll hit him in air with a rocket launcher, and it's absolutely insane. And it seems, I never got into Quake, so I don't know the meta, but you can totally tell when the enemy's like expecting him to do this rocket bullshit, and then he switches to like a railgun or something, just snipes them. He switched weapons all the time, and it looked super cool. But just like, I don't know, maybe that's all there is to that point, and I'm just trying to break it out more, but I definitely want to see. I think that's it. Alright, well, thanks for checking out my video. Definitely watch some highlights, and I will see you guys next time.